Next guest was a four-star Army general. He was in charge of the NSA, and he was director of the CIA. His name is Michael Hayden, and he has written a book called Playing to the Edge. Sir, thank you for joining us here in St. Louis.
Thank you.
Let's first talk about Apple and the argument that's going on right now. Apple is being asked to unlock one phone. What's the big deal? Should they unlock one phone to help find out what happened?
You know, this is kind of a short morality play for the whole texture of the book I just wrote, which is this is all shades of gray and good people can differ. So here's my take, all right? I am with Apple on the broad question of unbreakable end-to-end encryption. I think America is safer, not just more private, but America is safer with that. And so the broad request to build accesses into otherwise unbreakable encryption for the government to use even under a court order, I think that weakens encryption, and bad people around the world are going to exploit that. So I'm with Tim Cook on the big question. Now we go over to San Bernardino. I'm not at all convinced that this is that big question. I actually think this is an isolated, specific, court-warranted single phone for a single period of time. Now, Tim Cook argues that this, A, will lead to that, B. Well, if he believes that, he's got to explain it. So I'm shading towards the Bureau on getting access to this phone, but I'm firmly with Apple on the broader question.
So if you're firmly with Apple on the broader question, then the metadata collection that the NSA was involved in sounds to me like you weren't so crazy about that idea.
Well, it depends on what you do with the data. It depends on whose authority that you have. All right? By the way, you know, unbreakable end-to-end encryption built by an American company will be used by other people, legitimate foreign intelligence targets. And here, so you've got me accepting that this is going to make it harder for American intelligence to do its work from time to time. But the whole idea of safer communications for Americans is the right thing. Now, to get to the metadata program, yeah, we were challenged to discover something we had never been told to do before, and that was to detect terrorist communications, one end of which was in the United States. And gathering the metadata and severely limiting our access to it was the lightest possible squeeze on American privacy I could come up with, and still meet that requirement that the American political system, Congress and the president, demanded of us.
Michael Hayden, our guest. The book is called Playing to the Edge. Lots of things you touch on in this book. You're very open and very honest. Let's get to a couple of them. Eric Snowden, what he did he make America less safe?
Yeah, of course he did. Now, I get it. There are a lot of fans of him out there, and he did indeed accelerate a necessary conversation in the country. I would also add that he distorted it. But beyond that part of the things he revealed that may have touched upon your privacy or mine, the other 98% of the stuff he revealed talked about how America collects legitimate foreign intelligence against legitimate foreign targets. Let me give you an example. What is the civil liberties issue with giving to a reporter who then revealed that NSA had the ability to read the unencrypted emails of the Syrian armed forces, or that NSA and GCHQ intercepted the satellite phone of Dmitry Medvedev during a G20 meeting in the United Kingdom. That's the bulk of the stuff he pushed out was that stuff, which simply makes it more difficult for America and its friends to collect needed and legitimate intelligence.
The book is called Playing to the Edge. The argument, Michael Hayden, is that Dick Cheney made you do it. He made you make up false information on WMDs as an excuse to invade Iraq.
Yeah, I know the vice president. I actually don't think he would ever do that. But cutting to the bottom line, he didn't have to. We thought they had weapons of mass destruction. All right, I was in the room. I talk about this in the book. I was in the room, and we were voting on this national intelligence estimate about the Iraq nuclear and chemical and biological program. Based on the evidence I had, I raised my hand and voted for the NIE. We were flat wrong. I should add, so was every other intelligence service on the planet. But you know, I feel bad. I mean, it was a horrible thing to be wrong, but that wasn't our worst sin. Our worst sin in that whole episode was not just being wrong, but that our language, when you read the key judgments, and you can read these are online now. When you read them, our language comes across as being so confident. And even then, we weren't all that confident. We knew there was ambiguity, but we wrote it in a way that the casual reader would come across thinking this was a sure thing. And that was our biggest mistake.
Saddam Hussein, though, played right into your hands. He wanted
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
He wanted everybody to think he had him.
Look, the reasons we got to the wrong conclusion was one we had bad tradecraft, all right? We were single-sourced on a couple of things we should have done better. Number two, we had lowballed the Iraqi nuclear program before the first Gulf War, and of course the bureaucratic response to that is make sure you don't do that again. And then finally, Saddam acted like he had a program because he needed the people in the neighborhood, especially the Iranians, to think he did. That's right.
Michael Hayden, the book is called Playing to the Edge, a must-read. Another conversation going on right now is Guantanamo Bay, 91 still left. What do we do with that?
You know, I actually don't think Guantanamo is an issue anymore. I mean, it actually is a model prison. I understand we got a branding issue with it. I know, when you say Guantanamo, it's like a Rorschach test for a lot of the world, all right? And the response comes up negative. But it is a model prison. People there are being lawfully held. I don't want to rush to push people out the door because the recidivism rate there is actually pretty high. By the way, guys, truth in lending, we pushed a lot of people out of the door during the Bush administration, too, and a lot of them returned to jihad. I just think that let's not rush and do something we'll regret, either releasing people or bringing them here to North America, where we may actually be biting off a whole new series of legal problems when they begin to claim rights they don't claim now simply because they're on American soil.
Michael Hayden is our guest. The book is Playing It to the Edge, a must-read. One more question for you.
Sure.
Ted Cruz says we're going to carpet bomb ISIS. We're going to carpet bomb the Middle East. Trump says all those things. And the argument is that the more rhetoric they have, the more they are a recruiting tool for ISIS. True or false?
Yeah, it is. And the most egregious of all was the suggestion that we're going to close the border to over 1 billion adherents to one of the world's great monotheisms. We are spared some of the attacks that Europe sees, not zero, but we're spared some of the worst because we are a welcoming society. We know how to assimilate immigrants. We're actually pretty good at this. That's kind of a war-winning characteristic of us that's put at risk when someone seriously recommends, suggests that course of action I just brought up.
Michael Hayden, the book is Playing It to the Edge. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the book.
Thank you.